This week's lab is about the organs of the urinary system, and there are going to be a couple of challenges in this week. One challenge for this week is that you're going to learn two different, what anatomy profs call tracings, which is the path that some kind of fluid is taking through this part of the anatomy. You're going to be learning how blood is going to flow from the renal artery all the way through this thing we call the kidney. And you're also going to be learning the path that fluid that's on its way to becoming urine, the path that it takes is going to start here and end up flowing down here into your urinary bladder and out the urethra. So one of your challenges for next week's quiz is going to be knowing the path that fluid takes on this journey, knowing the path that blood takes through the kidney. The other challenge will be that as we're learning the anatomy, some parts of the urinary system are really big, things that we could see if we just, were looking inside of the abdomen of someone. But many of the very important parts of the urinary system are things that you only can see through the microscope. So we're going to be zooming in with super magnification and then zooming back out. Now, there is one important resource I want you to recognize that you have for this particular anatomy class, and it's been posted here on the website. There is a website here that says Anatomy Models website. I'm going to take you to that in a second. Also, remember that I've got videos specifically just on these lab models, so make sure you use those too. So let's go to the Anatomy Models Guide. Okay, so we've got the anatomy models. Okay, here we go. Urinary system. So we go to the urinary system and look at all of these images, all right? So this particular image, this is all the stuff that you could see just life size in a human. Here is one kidney that's been really enlarged so that you can see additional detail. Here is that same kind of kidney size, but just cut in a frontal section. Here, we are looking at just one of these triangles. Do I have a pen? I have a pen. If I took just this part right here and blew it up real big, it would be this thing here, all right? And then we're going to take just this part, like right there, and blow it up real big, and that will be here, right? But all of these things are available to you on this anatomy website. And remember, when, I don't know how to get out of there, like that? Okay, no. Remember when you actually go to these models, I've ruined it. And there are clickable links that you can identify the names of things and see their proper spellings. Oh, there we go. So let's go to our PowerPoint of the lecture. We're on page 145 now, so this particular image, you'll go really down to the bottom of the page, and we have got some parts that are seen here. Here we have got the urinary bladder. Remember that even though in common English terminology, you might refer to your urinary bladder as your bladder, we now know that you actually have to say urinary bladder. It's a 2-word answer because we also have a gallbladder, right? So the urinary bladder is the organ of this system that is going to store the urine that has been created by these guys, the kidneys, okay? Humans are designed to be born with 2 kidneys. Each kidney is going to make the urine. Once the urine has been made, it will be sent down a tube called the ureter, right? This is the left ureter, and the ureter is the tube that carries urine from the kidney down to the urinary bladder. The urinary bladder is the organ that's going to store it, and when it's time to get rid of that urine, it will leave your body through a tube called the urethra. Ureter and urethra, they're very similar words. The way that I remembered their difference is that ureter has got two E's. There's an E, there's an E. Two E's in ureter, and you've got two ureters, one from each kidney. And urethra only has one E, and urethra, you only have one urethra. Right? A little bit more detail about the urinary bladder. This is our lab model. And here we've got ureters, good. Here we have got a urinary bladder. If we look inside of the urinary bladder has got ridges inside of it, and those ridges are properly called rugae, R-U-G-A-E, rugae, and that's the same word as rugae for the ridges on the inside of the stomach. So that's pretty useful. Right? And then we have got this triangular region on the inside of the urinary bladder that's known as the trigon. Tri for three parts, and it is shaped like a triangle. At each point of the triangle, there's an opening. This is an opening from one of the ureters. Here's an opening from another ureter, and here's the opening to the urethra. This region's called the trigon. The trigon of the urinary bladder is where most bladder cancer will begin if someone gets bladder cancer. So now let's look at this. We're looking at what the anatomy profs call a kidney board, right? And this kidney board is one of the things I want to orient you to. Here we have got a very enlarged kidney. So that is in the lab, that is much larger than an actual human kidney. It's enlarged so that we can see some of the blood vessels more clearly and some of the other structures. We're going to talk about that. Now, if I took just one, what is called a lobe of the kidney, like let's just take this much, and if I magnified it even more, I would get this. All right? So this in this part of the model that's here on the middle of the kidney board, that is one lobe of the kidney. And the kidney's got actually many lobes. You don't have to know how many. And we have blown this up so that we could see even more detail of the path of blood flow and the path that fluid is going to take. And then we need to blow it up even more. So if we took this part right there and blew it up even more, we would see this, okay? So what you're looking at here, please know that that is not a urinary bladder, okay? There's no way that this is a urinary bladder. First of all, what the heck is all that stuff inside of it if it is a urinary bladder? No, that's not a urinary bladder. This is a glomerular capsule, and this is microscopically small. All righty. So let's get started talking about the different anatomical parts on page 145. Let's start at the top, the renal capsule. The renal capsule is tough connective tissue that is on the surface of the kidney. All right, that's the renal capsule. Now, we've got two terms. One is renal cortex, and one is renal medulla. Renal cortex, renal medulla, and the renal hilum, these are actually things that are just regions of the kidney. Okay? So the renal cortex. The renal cortex is this outer region. You'll notice it's a lighter pink than the rest of the kidney is, and it goes around the outside. That is the renal cortex. In the renal cortex is a lot of the important but microscopically small parts of this urinary anatomy. Then we've got the renal medulla. Do you see this line of red and blue blood vessels here? I'm going to draw the line with my laser pointer all the way like this, okay? From there inward, all of this region is called the renal medulla. And then this area here, right from there to there, this area where blood vessels are going in and out and this tube carrying urine is leaving, this area is called the renal hilum. Hilum, Hilum. That's number 4 on your list on page 145. All right? Renal capsule, renal cortex, renal medulla, renal hilum. What is a renal pyramid? Well, I was describing to you that there is an area here that is called a lobe of the kidney. That's not an anatomical term you need to know. But a lobe of the kidney is this thing that kind of looks like a triangle right here and the overlying tissue. This thing that kind of looks like a triangle, at least it looks like a triangle um, when we've cut across the kidney the way we have. But this thing right here, that is actually a renal pyramid. And in real life, they're not triangles. In real life, they're three-dimensional three-dimensional cone-like structures. So if I ask you a question and I say, what is this structure? You would say that structure is a renal pyramid. But if I ask you what area of the kidney is that, you would say that area, that region, is the renal medulla, because the renal pyramids are actually in the renal medulla. The renal pyramids, their pointy end, like right there, their pointy end, I might point to it right there. That pointy end is called the renal papilla, Papilla, and renal papilla, that's 5 sub A on your list. Let's see, what else do you need to know? Yes, the renal columns. The renal columns, you'll notice that this light colored stuff, I'm going to change my color to green now. This light colored tissue fills up the spaces between the renal pyramids. There's some. So that light pink tissue that fills up the spaces between the renal pyramids, but it's in the renal medulla, that light pink tissue, those are called the renal columns. All right, so let's see. We will pick up there at the beginning of our next video.